today's video, and instead of doing the usual sort of thing where there is a motorhome review, in fact today it was going to be a camper van review, I thought instead I'd do a live broadcast and to actually show you how well I am now living in my new motorhome. New for me, that is. It's not new as in new just off the production line. I have now been in this vehicle for 6 months, and this is going to be the story of the 6 months. Now, it's a live broadcast, so you can ask whatever you want. And as I'm sitting inside my van, not walking around, it's quite easy for me to see questions as they actually come through. So please do, if you want to ask anything, then go ahead. It is raining where I am right now. I'm in northern Poland, and it's raining. It's sort of raining in such a way, though, that it's not going to make too much of a racket on the on the vehicle. Sometimes you can be in the vehicle, and particularly when there's hail, and they wouldn't be able to do this talk. There's so much noise with everything coming down inside. Now, so there are two types of motorhomes effectively. You've got something called semi-integrated or integrated. Integrated is like I have here, where you've got this big panoramic window where the motorhome producer manufactures the front of the vehicle. Whereas if it's a semi-integrated, something's called coach built, for example, the front part of the vehicle it comes from the base vehicle manufacturer. So it could be a Fiat Ducato, it could be a Mercedes Sprinter, it could be now sometimes even VW, it could be Citroen, it could be Peugeot, it could be all sorts of things, Renault, and so that is that's the difference. Now there are a number though of really important differences when you're actually in the vehicle. Now, the German language has got this difference because we've got motorhome, and that's really it. Whereas now the German language has got two really good words for it. There's the word for motorhome, Reisemobil, so it's the travel van or something, and you've got the word Wohnmobil, living van, and that is what I feel is the difference, because I can feel here this is a living van. As far as I'm concerned, I really do appreciate this amount of space I've got here. I love this big panoramic window. Now, I've got to say, of course, that there are some things about it, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to drive. I do feel that at times it's not, of course, it's what I was used to. I've been driving a semi-integrated vehicle or camper vans now for 12 years, and so then you change into something else, and so obviously there's a little bit of a problem. But I do think that this exists for other people as well. Now, Carthago came up with a very interesting solution around 3 years ago, whereby it's got a more of a sort of a pointy end on their smaller integrated motorhomes, and this I think helps driving. It doesn't sort of give you the same interpretation of space. Now, this van here I'm in now is 226 centimeters long, so it's like 7 centimeters longer than the vehicle that I used to own on the Fiat Ducato, and of course at the front it was even shorter than that, because normally you've got the front, the Fiat bit, and then it comes out a bit for the bit for the habitation area. And so this in this one it's sort of at the front and it's straight all the way back, and so this extra 7 centimeters doesn't sound like much. But when you think 7 centimeters was, or something like that, it's not even that, yeah, something like that. But it really, I think it's first I was worried about driving in it 7 centimeters extra, but it gives me really, I feel a huge amount of space here. at the front, and it's sort of also you have people around as well. And there's no one even thinking, well, got people come around. You go outside, you don't sort of sit indoors. When you're wild camping, but I've got this really fantastic location where I'm at now. But look, I really believe if you're wild camping, you don't abuse. And one thing you don't do is put deck chairs up and tables up outside. So in that situation, I've got now. So I mean, if somebody comes, it's really nice. Of course, you can leave the doors and the windows open anyway, so you've still got the benefit. Oh, sorry, the doors open anyway, because I've got this thing when you're wild camping about windows open at the sides, windows and the roof open, of course. Yeah, you can't, that's okay. So there's these really strong advantages. I feel that I'm living in a vehicle which I didn't actually feel I was doing before. Now there are the negative sides, of course. Now I mentioned the fact that it's in you. The mental issue of driving a wider vehicle. It's not just a mental issue, it might be a real issue. So there's places you can't get into. You might be able to get into your gates at home, for example. If your gates are if your drive's quite narrow, you can't get down narrower roads and things of this nature. Now, what really bothered me more than anything else is in these places, particularly in Germany, you go down the motorway, and the motorway, half the motorway is closed. You've got a really tiny lane to sort of drive through. So I'll go and you've got a concrete bollards on one end, so that I feel as though I can't really race down them, and I'm quite cautious when I go down. There was one place and I thought, I'm holding up all the traffic here, but nobody beeped at me or anything like that. And I was trying to drive, and obviously there must be 2 meters, 50 of space, otherwise the lorries couldn't actually drive down them. So maybe I'm being a bit too cautious on that one. There's another thing which a lot of people do mention, the crash tests. There was something that was put on the internet in Sweden around 2017 or thereabouts, and it showed all the results of crash tests in integrated motorhomes as opposed to semi-integrated ones. And the semi-integrated ones are far better if you're in a crash in the front or even from the sides, far better protected, it would seem. And I do appreciate that is something that some people might actually consider. Now, I have been living in this van now for 6 months, but I make a distinction between sort of living in the van as it's somewhere to stay and touring in the van. And I also make a distinction between touring in the van and driving it from A to B, because I've got to get it from A to B. And so this, in a way, really now, in the last, I've been moving around constantly since the beginning of June. And I think really this is the first proper tour as such that I've done in the van. Now I have driven it. I was in a place in Germany for some time. I was driving, and I was in a place in Poland for quite a long time. Other than that, recently I was in the UK. I was in Ukraine, and without the van, of course. And so I'm not including that. I was in Malta as well. I'm not including that. But I find that being here, for example, where I am now, it's almost, I'm in this super location, got this super view I can really appreciate out of it. I really feel that this has completely changed my van life experience. And the thing is that I do appreciate some of the other problems with the integrate. Now, one is the cost. I mean, everybody has a windscreen that goes, and the cost of replacing a windscreen, something like this, as opposed is what, 4 or 5 times as much. Also, if you need work done on the engine, that can be 4 or 5 times as much. Well, no, I'm exaggerating a bit now, but three times as much anyway, because of the limited access to the engine. I found that also that when I've had to do things myself, for example, first thing I thought of, what about putting in fluids into the engine? But there's a special thing to do it with, so it's not. It takes a little bit more time, but doesn't take a lot more time. It is a little. The thing is, I'm not really doing that much with the engine anyway. I try not to, because I don't really know what I'm doing. So, but for those of who do know what they're doing, they would find that much more difficult. Another thing which I talk about in lots of videos is the double floor. I haven't had a double floor until I had this one here. And whereas last winter was quite mild, at least when I was in the van, I mean, I don't think we ever, I think the coldest I was in about -3 or something like that. But it was, I found it to be the double floor. Oh, the difference again, it's enormous. Now, in my van, I put towels on the floor, and the reason I put towels on the floor, or I've got mats, is that when you bring things that you even if you take your shoes off and then you're bringing all sorts of stuff in, then you can just give a quick shake and it's tidy. Now I've sort of changed my way of doing things. What I now do is I open the front door, then because it's so much higher because there's 2 steps up, I sit on the where the door is. I then take my shoes off, so my shoes are taken off outside, and then I also clean my feet outside, so I'm not bringing in all them bits of stones and sand and all the rest of it, which inevitably seems to actually get into the vehicle. Not only that, there isn't a dog now to bring them in either, which of course is sad, but anyway. So that is the double floor has really been quite positive. Now this van here is actually it's wider, but it's shorter. It's 60 centimeters shorter, but because of the double floor, because of the really large garage, I don't really feel it. Now the one thing there's less storage inside the habitation, and not including the garage, but there is less storage there. But all the same, all the positive parts really outweigh the negative things. Now, and people ask me, what vehicle should I get? Now, obviously, a question like this is based on personal taste, and so one gets what one thinks is best for oneself. But I always say, well, okay, first question is how much money you got, and the second question is, I would say, is and what your needs. But I would say get a classic vehicle, get a classic thing like a classic Hymer, classic Carthago, classic Frankia, classic EuraMobil, something like this, something like a vehicle that's maybe 20 years old. Today, I've got my neighbours on this side, they're in a classic Hymer from 1994, and it might be a bit old for lots of people, but I would say something like I've got here, like if you get something like maybe 10-15 years old, and I would much prefer that to what my neighbours on my other side have just gone, but they had a roller team 267, which was new. I'd much rather have the classic vehicle. I think it's going to be much more reliable long term. I do appreciate there may be reasons you can't find one, or you might want something that's new for taxation or other reasons, or are you frightened of using something? I mean, things will go wrong. Things will go wrong in new ones, but at least they're covered by guarantee. And if you've got something like, okay, in here I've got certain things that the light, for example, here this is an LED. This vehicle came up 2006. Okay, then we're still using these yellow lights, but I mean, there's so much battery power on the so much solar and so much battery power, it doesn't really bother me too much. So things of that nature to consider. I mean, if I could afford a classic Frankia, for example, oh no, that would be brilliant, but I think that's well and truly outside of my reach. I do appreciate, for example, as I just said, that the technology is advanced. I mean, certain things like electronics and what have you, but I've got to say this, the electro block here so far is been wonderful. I've been able to charge lithium batteries without any problems whatsoever. I thought there would be problems. I didn't think Electroblock would be able to take it, but no, nothing. Everything's been great. Fridge is bust, but the fridge is from my own vehicle anyway. I don't know what's happened with the fridge. It might be a fuse. It might be something else. I don't know. But I couldn't fix it. It's not a fuse in the electroblock. I know that. But it may be the fridge fuse, which is unfortunately I can't do. It's too difficult work for me. But But other than that, but this isn't the original fridge anyway, because this fridge I took out my old vehicle and put it in here. Other than that, absolutely really good. Or even with it's this one here's got a dual heater, both electric and gas, and no, it's great. I mean, okay, the electric isn't, uh, it's weak. I mean, the gas is really strong, but it's really good. Anyway, so there you have my reasons why I believe that an integrated van is better than a semi-integrated van. The final reason, though, if you're buying new, you're looking at around 15% more on the integrated over the semi-integrated, and that of course also might be from. Bear in mind, I'm at a stage where I'm in love with the vehicle, and so anybody's in love with anything, you've got to sort of balance this out with somebody who isn't in love with the vehicle. I always, in everything I do, I try to be as unbiased as possible. So that if I say something, at least I mean it's believable. So I say a bit of kit is okay, then it's it's believable, and so that to me is really important. But I do put in that proviso that I'm at this stage. I think this vehicle is absolutely wonderful. It's the vehicle it's my dream van, absolutely and utterly, and it's great. So where the other van was okay, but it was well. Now when I think about it, I see more and more of the problems that it had. Anyway, great. So thanks very much for watching. I'll do some more live broadcasts, and I'm in an absolutely wonderful location at the moment in northern Poland. It was utterly roasting, but and now it's. Unfortunately, it's going to be at 1920 now for degrees centigrade for the rest of my time here. And I'll be at Caravan Salon next month from once at 25th of August. I think it starts 24th of August, something like that. And so I'll be in Germany. So anyway, for the moment, from me in Poland, thanks very much for watching. Hope you found that interesting. If you've got any comments about this type of thing, please do let them know. And so Heike says thanks for the video. Nice to hear you enjoying your time in your new to me Hymer. Thank you. Thanks all the best, and bye for now.